How you doing this morning? Congratulations on making the Survivor finale. How are you?
I'm great, John. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Um, we saw the reaction to your tribal council, your performance there. What was your mindset going in?
My mindset going into Final Tribal was just to pull no punches. I told Rachel, "Hey, I'm coming for your neck. I'm gonna be aggressive. I'm gonna take some shots." And she kind of was like, bring it on, man. I'm gonna throw them right back. So I knew I was gonna try and really command the room,
Right.
really sort of control what was being discussed and talked about and how it was being talked about, in order to be pretty intentional about how I framed my game compared to Rachel's game at the end.
Yeah. Well, again, we saw many of the jurors said that you had made a strong argument. The one person who did stick by you was Kyle.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that, knowing that he was true to your friendship and alliance with you?
Yeah, I mean, incredible. I cannot say enough good things about Kyle. The same way that he felt about me out there, I feel like it is totally reciprocated. Just the dude that I admire so much of his drive and the person that he is for his family.
Yeah.
So yeah, it meant a lot to me. I feel like he was somebody that I had a really good connection with in the game, and it's certainly nice when those connections are backed up by action and a vote at the end.
Were you surprised at the final vote? Because again, like we saw that Sierra was a solid ally throughout the game with you, and yeah, she didn't come through with you just as far as the vote's concerned.
Yeah, no, I was very surprised. Sierra was somebody who I definitely thought I could rely on her vote. Um, I thought I was going to get Gabe's vote as well. Those were two people that I felt pretty confident about. That there's everybody else I was sort of either not feeling good about or on the fence about. Really, Andy and Teeny felt like the swing to me. The way I perceived it in the moment was Caroline, Saul, and Genevieve were going to be firmly in the Rachel camp. They were going to be voting for Rachel. I thought I was going to be able to get Sierra, Kyle, and Gabe, and was really trying to swing Andy and Teeny to be a 5-3 because I knew in a 4-4 scenario, Sue would have voted for Rachel. So I was trying to find five somehow. Definitely expected it to be closer than it ended up coming out. So that was a bit of a surprise for sure.
Now you started out the game very strong because you had a core alliance around you, and then as we saw, they started disappearing.
Yeah.
Playing from the bottom for quite a large portion of the game. How was it to play from the bottom? Were you surprised at that? Because again, most people don't go in putting themselves in that scenario where, okay, what am I going to do if I'm at the bottom and I have to scrap and fight my way through?
Yeah, definitely not a scenario that I envisioned for my game. But kind of fun. I didn't mind it in a weird way. Like it sucks to be on the outs. It sucks to have your name written down and brought up at every single tribal council and constantly have a target on your back. But there is something about being on the bottom that's very liberating to just play the game and just go for broke. You can make big, flashy moves and have fun playing Survivor and know that, hey, I got nothing to lose anyway. Like if I don't do this, I'm going to end up at Ponderosa. So if this
Right.
costs me the game and I end up at Ponderosa, at least I went down swinging. And I think being able to adapt that aggressive mentality
Right.
was unique for somebody on the bottom that I really tried to do. I played the game like I was on top when I was not on top.
Yeah.
Really just wanted to take control of things and have fun. And so it was not what I envisioned, but certainly feel like I had a good time because of it.
Now, talking about taking control, I mean, you were one step from the end or a couple steps from the end, and you had Genevieve beside you, and you decided to leak the fact that her idol wasn't a real one.
Yeah.
Did that play out how it wanted you to? And what got into thinking? Because she had been an ally with you, but what prompted that, you know what? This is the time to cut her now.
Yeah. So it did work out exactly how I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Genevieve goes home. I give myself a chance to make four, which then gets me into the end of the game and gives me a chance to win $1 million. So it was executed like I thought. Um, Genevieve beats anybody in the game at Final Tribal, and I think she does it unanimously. I
Wow.
I think she was that well respected And she's somebody who doesn't see that in herself. She is self-deprecating and doesn't realize how good she is or how much people love her.
Right.
I saw it, being having the pleasure of being an ally and a friend to her in the game. I knew that I had no shot against Genevieve. I knew that that was my biggest competition left in the game. So I was working with Genevieve as a means of furthering myself to a point where I could get to the end. It never would have made sense for me to sit next to Genevieve at Final Three. And so the sort of plan after Rachel plays the idol at 6 is to have Rachel go out at 5. Um, and Genevieve, I wanted to make fire against Genevieve at the Final Four.
Right.
Put ourselves in fire against each other. Say winner gets $1 million. Good game, and I could be happy either way, knowing that like either her or I were gonna win, and I felt peace with that. But then when Rachel obviously wins immunity at 5, I start to run through my scenarios of what is my best chance to win, and my calculus in that moment was either sitting next to Teeny and Sue or sitting next to Sue and Rachel and fighting like hell at Final Tribal. And neither one of those scenarios included Genevieve. So
Now we saw you towards the end of the game. You had a very good attitude about things, like you were just saying, if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose, you know. Now, was it playing from the bottom that brought that into you? How did that mindset click in? Because again, it seemed to be a little bit of a different mindset from when you started with the game, but then again, you were in a far different position then.
yeah, no, I do think it's playing from the bottom. It's escaping death. Multiple times. I had 3 different votes throughout the game that I was 1 vote away from going home. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a 4-4 split on Sierra and I, 2-2-2 leading up to the last vote at Operation Italy, and then 2 on me, 2 on Genevieve at the final 5. It felt like I kept narrowly avoiding death, and I had made this run that I didn't expect to keep making and keep surviving. And it definitely became this moment where I was able to make peace with whatever was going to be. I knew that I had done all that I could do every step of the way, and that I was going to keep doing absolutely everything. But if I hit the end of my rope at any point, I could smile on the way out and know that I had no regrets. And ultimately, I feel like that is what you desire as a Survivor player. It is very rare to get to go on the show
Mhm.
and play this awesome game and come away not having any significant regret for one big mistake or move that you made. And so I felt very blessed to be in that position, to know that like, hey, this is it right here. And if we capture the moment and we win this thing, awesome. And if not, like, I'm going to be okay.
Now, one of your more rockier relationships was with Teeny. I mean, we saw, how she reacted going into fire,
Mm.
how she reacted to you just as a person as well. I mean, there was that, when you didn't take her on the challenge. I mean, you weren't party to that, but you've seen afterwards what her reaction was. What is your response to all of that? Because again, it seemed, on the side of personal, which you try to separate that in the game of Survivor, but sometimes it just comes to the forefront.
Yeah, well, I think what you said is right. It is personal in a way, but not necessarily between Teeny and I. But
Right,
really, I think it's a personal thing for Teeny.
right,
And I think that's one aspect of this game that you can't account for going in, is that these are very different people, and we all see the world differently, and we've all interacted with the world differently, and we have
right.
we have our own battles with identity and our place in the world and privilege, and we're all different on somewhere on that spectrum. and,
Yeah,
and so I never took it personally from Teeny. I never had any ill will towards Teeny for it. I know that like I'm not Teeny. I don't interact with the world the same way Teeny does. I haven't had those sort of feelings, and so who am I to tell Teeny how they can or can't feel about me or those moments? And Survivor is a raw, vulnerable game, and I
right.
will never be upset for somebody being raw and vulnerable about how they feel. And I think Teeny is such a special person for being willing to be vulnerable, willing to be self-aware, willing to be all versions of themselves unapologetically. And I have such admiration for that. So from my perspective, it was control the controllables, man. Like, you be yourself, control how you treat people, control how you represent yourself, and let everybody else interact with the world how they interact with the world. That's not your place to tell them how to do that.
Now, I ask all the survivors this because, again, we only get to see, a small portion of your journey or overall time there. Is there anything about your journey, whether it was a moment with somebody, a gameplay, was there anything that you wish fans would have been able to see?
Yeah, I think for me it would have been the intentionality of Operation Italy, and all of the everything I did was on purpose.
Right.
From bringing Andy on the reward to the way that I spoke about it publicly with Jeff on the mat, all of that was sort of part of the plan. I had talked to Genevieve a day before Operation Italy about trying to do this 3-2-2 vote with an elaborate ruse of a fake idol and hope for the best. And she kind of got on board, and we were trying to weigh our options for what we felt like was our best option. And Genevieve was really drawn to Teeny as somebody that we could bring in and have be our third. I was really drawn to Andy, and I felt like Andy and I had the best relationship of anybody in that underdog five at the time. I felt like Andy was incredibly capable of playing his part and pulling this thing off. And I had done a similar move, a similar ruse before with Andy at Gata, where we had to play our parts for a week. So everything in like the way that we approached that challenge and the way that we approached the reward was all very intentional about trying to set this plan in place. And I do think it was a strategic move that I'm very proud of, and I wish maybe would have gotten shown a little bit more.
Now, one final question. Obviously, you come home with your bank account a little bit,
Yeah,
doing a lot better than it was a few months ago. Do you have any plans for the money, and what does the future hold for Sam?
be as responsible as possible. Try and do some investments. Try and maybe pay off some student loans or whatever, and get that stuff taken care of. But yeah, definitely helps. Goes a long way. What's next for Sam? We'll see. I've still got a lot of big dreams, a lot of things that I would like to pursue. So who knows? Who
Would you
knows?
ever would you ever come back to the island and play again, Sam?
Absolutely, I would. Of course.
Great. Well, Sam, it was wonderful watching you this season. It was great seeing somebody playing from underneath, willing to take those risks
Yeah.
and really throw chaos into the game. So it was great watching you. All the best in the future, and thanks for talking to us today.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, John.
Take care.